Welcome back to the Legislative Lounge. We are happy to be with you guys here on Tuesday night. This is actually going to be our new spot for the Legislative Lounge. Mike Bales is my partner that you guys are used to seeing, is not with us tonight, but he will definitely be with us next week. And so we've got a special episode to kick us off on the new time frame for us. So we'll be here every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. So please tune in with us in Radiodabang. But with this show, we're going to do something a little different. If you've ever tuned into the Legislative Lounge, we take a look at more of the national things, but we always advocate for you to pay attention to your local and state issues and who your candidates are, because honestly, that's the area in which people are actually going to affect your day-to-day most, even far more than Congress or the president. And so today, we've got a special guest with us that is actually running for SugarLand mayor, and her name is Carol McCutcheon. How are you doing today, Carol?
I'm doing great, Nathan, so thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're glad to be here. I know this is a pretty tight-knit, it's actually a runoff. So the election itself was pretty close to begin with. Started off with, I believe, 6 different candidates, and now we're just down to the 2 of you, right?
That's right, yes.
How are you feeling about it?
Well, I'm excited. Like I said, I was a SugarLand City Council member for 8 years, Mayor Pro Tem from 2019 to 2020, and I am very excited to be in the runoff for the mayor of SugarLand. And the polls closed about 2 minutes ago for early voting.
I was going to say, early voting was closed today.
Yeah.
Because I think the actual election is on Saturday, correct?
Yeah, Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday.
Okay, so if you're out there at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., definitely get out and vote in SugarLand. But we're going to give a little bit more background on who Carol McCutcheon is, because a lot of people are asking. Some might not know you. So who is Carol McCutcheon?
Okay. Well, my husband and I have been married for 37 years, and we've called home SugarLand home for the past 32 years. And I just absolutely love living here in SugarLand. I have a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, a master's in chemical engineering with a minor in petroleum engineering, and an MBA in finance and management.
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, my engineering background gives me a practical, solutions-oriented approach to city leadership. And with a $569 million budget, it definitely comes in handy to have a MBA and be able to go through all of that budget stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, who better to have somebody that has both finances and engineering background to be a mayor who controls both of those, right? So it sounds as though you haven't always been here. Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Tennessee.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I'm a transplant as well, which honestly a lot of people in Fort Bend County and specifically SugarLand are. So we can really relate with one another. I come from the Michigan area.
Okay.
How long were you in Tennessee?
I was there for about 22 years. So I got my undergraduate there at University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And so I grew up in Oak Ridge, which is outside the Smoky Mountains. Really, really beautiful area. And then after I got my bachelor's, then I came here to University of Texas to get my master's. And then been here ever since.
Well, I've got kind of a sourpuss to the Longhorns this year. They beat my my Wolverines, so it's a love-hate relationship right now with the Texas people. So, but what is it about SugarLand? What is the love that you have for SugarLand that makes you want to take on this role of mayor?
It's the people. We have just incredible people from all sorts of backgrounds here, and it's just a really rare gem of a place. There's a lot of just beautiful parks, all sorts of places for you to spend time with the family, and a lot of fun, shops and restaurants, and a lot of nice, really master plan communities.
Right, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that me and my wife first noticed just in Fort Bend County, but more specifically SugarLand, because that's kind of the area we're looking to buy a home in. So I definitely have some questions related to that here to come down the road, but the beauty of SugarLand is one of the biggest things, and honestly, that's probably why it's one of the fastest growing here in Texas and honestly the country as a whole for Fort Bend County. And with that in mind, since it is such a rapidly growing area, I was taking a look at some of the metrics of it and some of the scales out into the future, and they're projecting Fort Bend County to be around 2 million by 2050, which, of course, is down the road, but thinking about, I think we're only at 150,000 just in SugarLand. So with that in mind, what is the plans that you might want to instill as becoming mayor in regards to like infrastructure? Because one of the biggest problems that we're seeing around this particular area, along with SugarLand itself, is a lot of construction that seems to be kind of dragging on.
Right. Yeah. Traffic mobility is the number one concern our citizens have on the citizen satisfaction survey. And we have widened the roads about as much as we can widen them. We've just finished up the most recent widening on University Boulevard. So one thing that we're really focusing on now is using the absolute latest in traffic technology. So instead of the traffic lights having a fixed schedule for each of the lights, from this time versus this way the lights can communicate with each other in real time and can change their pattern, just right there for that particular second that's going on. So that's really an important thing to do.
That is one of the most annoying things. When I'm sitting at a light, it's a red light, nobody's coming, and I'm just sitting there waiting for nobody to go. So
exactly.
These are the type of lights that would notice.
Exactly. They would notice, and they could turn green for you. So that's
well, that's definitely great. I know that there's been a lot of construction, especially in the 6 and 90 area. That's been kind of ongoing. I'm not sure how invested you are into all of that. Do you know about any more expansions in the area, or how the time frame and when these kind of things might be wrapped up, I guess you could say?
Well, TxDOT's doing the construction there on 90 near 99, and boy, that's been taking forever. So that's got probably another year to go on that. And then TxDOT's also working on moving the pilings on Highway 59 where it crosses over the Brazos River, because after the hurricanes that we had, it eroded out part of the beam. So they're moving those pilings just at 1,000 feet north to prevent the road the bridge from collapsing in the future. And that's a 3-year project for that.
Yeah, and I know that's actually, it kind of moves us into the next area. I know drainage is a big issue, not just for Fort Bend County, but basically this entire region. Because, it seems like we're in this big old bowl, and we tend to get massive amounts of flooding on a yearly basis. So what is it, when we're taking a look at the SugarLand specifically, I was taking a look at some data saying it shows that about 74% of buildings in SugarLand are at risk of flooding. Is there any kind of bonds or anything that they're working on now to kind of mitigate those issues?
Yes. Well, first of all, we have a number of LIDs, levee improvement districts in SugarLand. So the area where many people, such as myself, live is protected by a levee, which is really important. And so within the city, back in 2019, passed a bond election for almost $50 million on drainage, because we had a number of homes flood during Hurricane Harvey in 2017. And then in May 2019, there was a very heavy rain event where other homes flooded. And then there were a few homes that flooded in both events. So we passed that bond election. And so then in 2025, this past November, we had another $35 million that were devoted toward drainage. And so it's really divided into two parts. So, the city looks to see, okay, what is in its purview? Is which areas are prone to flooding because of limitations of the city's drainage. And so we work on that. And then we also, partner and work with the LIDs, and the LIDs have also done significant work on their end to make sure that there's not a bottleneck there. So a lot of money has been spent to keep SugarLand homes from flooding again in the future. And then another issue that we've been dealing with is erosion. In Hurricane Harvey, right. Memorial Park lost 200 feet of the park in that area from that storm. So some modeling was done, and one of the worst case scenarios showed that the Brazos River could change its course and erode almost all the way up to University Boulevard, which is an evacuation route.
Yeah.
So we partnered with a number of different governmental agencies, and just for SugarLand alone, received $42 million for funding to prevent future Brazos River erosion. $4 million went to the city itself, and then $38 million went to the county to prevent this Brazos River erosion. So we've been spending a lot of work, a lot of money on drainage and erosion prevention.
Absolutely. That's a lot of great information. So, it's great that you're not even in the position you already know all this. But I know that you said that you served in a number of different areas on that board. So another issue, obviously, living in Texas now, of course, we understand that when it comes to the power grid, it's really up to the state as a whole to really figure out that issue. But it seems as though every year we just have a little of wind, we tend to lose power for quite some time. So is there any kind of plan that SugarLand specifically has for the residents in that scenario where they might lose it because maybe the power grid fails again?
Okay. Well, the state of Texas has a plan in place to provide grants to different, to I guess, encourage development of some small, power production area plants throughout the state. And so, what happened back during a prior hurricane, I heard the head of ERCOT say that we had got down to like 3 minutes and 47 seconds or something like that of the entire power grid in Texas going down. And I know we personally were under we're under a blackout for 3 days because when they were getting so close to the whole grid failing, they started cutting power, to different places. It was supposed to be a rolling blackout, but it didn't roll. But that was extremely dangerous in my opinion because a black start is very, very expensive to do, very time consuming. The power could have been down for months in the entire state, and I can't even imagine what havoc that would have wreaked on everything. So now they're wanting to do some of these rapid start power plants throughout the state. So if this happens again, that these plants can just start up and provide electricity to residents. And now one had been potentially considered in the city.
Right, and I was just about to talk about that because I know that a lot of people, for those that aren't aware, there was talks about putting a power plant in the city limits of SugarLand itself, but it seems as though that this is actually quite a bipartisan displeasure, I should say, because there's a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, I guess you can call it, in all forms of down to the citizens. And I've talked to quite a few. Like I say, I don't live specifically in SugarLand, but I do a lot of dealings there, and I have a ton of friends there, and from both sides of the aisle. And it seems as though that they're all kind of under the same understanding is like, we don't want this in our city. So what have you heard on that?
Oh, yes. Well, it had been authorized for a company to come in and do some environmental studies to consider a power plant going in next to the airport. And the citizens came out loud and clear. I said on both sides of the aisle, this is not something that we want in our city, so there's no point in studying it. We don't want it at all. There would be 60 to 100 foot stacks that was going to clean the effluent that people just said we don't care, we do not want this here. So anyway, that was the study was ended prematurely. But one thing I've said that if something were ever to come back, come to the city for a power plant like that, I would be a no vote on a power plant within the city limits. Although I said I support the need for this and understand it, I think that needs to be outside the city limits in a less developed area and not inside the city limits near single-family homes because it could affect the property values and also the location that had been proposed said was next to the airport, which had concerns for me as well. So, so like I said, that issue is gone, but if it were ever to resurface, I would be, a no vote on that.
Right, and I mean, taking a look into the situation, I know the other candidate himself, he kind of got forced into a no because he kind of sidestepped it quite a bit until eventually he had to ultimately give a no. But for everybody that's listening, you were a no from the beginning, correct?
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it has to do with a number of different factors: health, environment, all of that. I mean, it's not something that it's not something we want here in our area because what it does to the ground, what it does to the water, what it does to the air. It's one of those pollutants that you just don't want anywhere near us, even though it's one of those kind of necessities that you really need. But here in SugarLand, there's so much underdeveloped area that we could use. It just makes more sense that they would put it somewhere in those areas where it's not developed, right?
Right. Yeah, there's plenty of places that it could go in the state that's not associated with SugarLand. Yeah.
Absolutely. And taking a look into going a little bit back into the whole population, right? We have this massive increase of population, which we would have to worry about as well when it comes to that. But it seems as though we've got so many people coming to Fort Bend County, you would think that with a more flow of business, things would get a little bit easier on the pocketbook, but it seems as though it's had a reverse effect on that. Not only for cost of living, but I mean, housing market itself is kind of crazy right now. Now I know the mayor really doesn't have like extensive power over the pricing of housing or the cost of living, but do you know of anything that might even be in the works from city council to try and mitigate these cost of living issues that a lot of people are facing right now?
Well, one thing, the cost have gone up for the city, and just the cost of being able to provide the services for our residents, just like the price of eggs have gone way up in the stores. The cost of us, providing, operations and maintenance for our city facilities has gone way, way up. But I do believe that we need to keep the tax rate as low as possible, but balance that with providing the high level of services that our residents expect. And so we do have our one of the lowest tax rates for the city in the entire state for cities our size, but then which is 35 cents per $100. But we also have the county, which is about 41 cents, and then there's Fort Bend County Drainage, which is another penny. Then you've got 99 cents for Fort Bend ISD. We do have some homes that are in Lamar Consolidated as well. And then there's a lid tax, and so by the time you add all that together, then that does add up to a pretty decent amount. But like I said, our tax rate is 35 cents for the city, whereas something like Pearland, which is nearby, is I think around 63 cents. So we are quite a bit lower than that. But yeah, with respect to the home price themselves, that's set by the Fort Bend Central Appraisal District, and that is completely outside the city's purview. They just, give us the market values for each of the properties, and then we just use that when we have our property tax assessment, for get the property taxes. But we are going to be doing some redevelopment in the Lake Point area, and that is very close to being signed, and a developer, Lovett, is going to come in, and they're going to be building some single-family homes there, and then also some multifamily. So they're going to be having a variety of residential, and these are going to be at some, maybe some a little more affordable price point, still good quality, but maybe a little more affordable price point, because we really don't have much in the way of homes for sale in the city, and the land that we have left is really more for, like I said, in a commercial area, not a single family home area.
I was going to say, because right now, when you take a look at the metrics in SugarLand, it's, and again, I know this doesn't have anything to do with the mayor, but taking a look at the average pricing or the median price of homes at $450,000, when the average median income is around $49,000, $50,000 a year, it kind of makes it hard. So with these development, though, is it going to cost them in regards to the property tax? Because I know that's a huge issue here in the state of Texas, and those people up over there in Austin clearly don't give it. We'll leave it at that. They don't care. Let's put it like that. Is there a way that it's going to be able to do all these projects without affecting the property tax being as low as it is?
To do which project?
Like when it comes to the bonding and things of that nature for the new hall.
That is one thing. Though, when the voters approved the bond election in November, which was $350 million, they were made aware that this would have an accompanying tax rate increase for all of that. And that is not something that we're going to be taking all at one time, but these are projects that we're going to do over the course of the next 5 years. And so we'll only be taking a tax increase enough to do that fiscal year's capital improvement projects, and then the next year have another increase. But so with those increases, then we need to work very hard to keep the other side, the other component of the property taxes as low as possible, which is for the maintenance side of the city. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a challenge.
No,
it's definitely a big challenge.
And then taking a look at a few things, being that SugarLand is such a great place to live, there's actually, very little crime in the city, which is great. And taking a look at it, though, we have to pay attention to it because we are so close to the illustrious Houston, and spillover happens, especially in big metro areas like that. So I know, taking a look at the metrics, there was an uptick from 2021 to 22, but it seems as though they did some kind of changes, because in 23 and 24 went down a little bit in regards to crime. So what are some plans in place or reinforcements of police stations or anything that you have in mind that, Ms. McCutcheon would want to do as mayor to kind of reinforce that and help that trend to keep going down?
Yeah, well, public safety is my number one priority. I want to keep SugarLand a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. But yeah, you're right. Even though as safe as we are, is going to be spillover from Houston because we're just so close to it. One thing that was included in the recent bond election was expansion of our public safety training facilities. So it was really important for our police as well as our fire and emergency medical services to have really top-notch training. And so by having the public safety training facility in the city, they can train right here without having to leave and go to another area to do that. So it's really important, I said training, but then also for them to have the resources that they need.
Right.
And so that's, and then also we need to pay them competitively so that we can hire the best and keep the best.
Right, and I know that over the last year, in 2024, I believe that they hired around 18 new officers. Most of them, I think it was like somewhere around like 82% of them were new hires that had to go through the academy and things like that. Are we going to continue to see a trend of hiring in this area to really expand and make sure that things are continuing that trend down?
Well, our police chief works hard to keep our police department fully staffed,
right.
And by paying competitively, and then also we have just a really deep appreciation for the police in our city, and it really attracts, I think, the police to come want to work here. We hired some police officers from New York City a couple years ago. And I talked to them after they'd been here a little while, and they were amazed. They said, people here in SugarLand, they really like us. They really appreciate us. They even want to take pictures with us. They said in New York City, they said it was 180 degrees different from that. And there are a couple of different groups that even have hold a luncheon for our police officers every year just to show their appreciation. So we have a spirit here of community policing, which is really great to have.
Absolutely, and especially knowing about the situation of the country as a whole, it seems like we're always on the brink of some kind of new uprising of people getting upset about something. So to know that the people approve of what SugarLand's police are doing, along with the leader behind them, it just reinforces that we're going to keep your community safe.
Right. And we have a Citizens Police Academy. And I went through that over 20 years ago. And it's really great because you find out what it's like to be a police officer. You do some simulations so you can really appreciate the split-second decisions that a police officer sometimes has to make. And that is a very, very educational. And there's a teen police academy, in fact, that just started in the city. And so the teenagers get to do something similar, but on a scale appropriate for teenagers. And they get to realize, police officers are real people, and they're here to help us and protect us. And so I always hear rave reviews about that. And then also each year we participate in National Night Out Against Crime. And so people have block parties throughout the city, and so our first responders will go by and meet the residents, in their neighborhoods, and give them crime prevention tips, and just have a chance to meet them and stuff. And I think that's real important. And it's important to know your neighbors because and the cars that they drive, because if something is amiss, then you'll know to call, even if it's not a 911, you can call a non-emergency police dispatch and say, hey, something looks strange. Can you just come by and check this out?
Right.
And so I always encourage people to do that. If you see something, yes, say something type thing.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm coming from the state of Michigan, it is the complete opposite. I didn't know any of my neighbors, so that's the nice thing about Texas is that everybody here is friendly.
We're friendly. Yeah.
And it's even better because there's the stigma around police across the nation right now of, oh, they're the bad guy, they're the guy out to get you. So the fact that the city is taking these moves to make people feel that they're here to protect and serve,
right,
and they're here for you is a great step in building that community trust within our leadership. So.
Right, and sometimes we'll have like a coffee with the cops, so people
right.
can just, as they come by, and just chat with them, realize they're people too.
Right, and I believe even our fire stations is one of the best in the country or something.
Oh yeah, we are in the top 3% of the country with our firefighters. Very, very impressed with them. And one thing that's important for all of our first responders is response time, and that's a metric that we take very seriously. And we always we have a very quick response time, and are always seeing, is there any way that we can make it even faster?
Right, and I'm looking at the SugarLand. They put out the police department put out like statistics for 2024. I think in regards to their emergent issues, I think they topped out at about 7 minutes per response. So I mean that's great timing in regards to the national average, around 15 minutes or something like that. So the fact that our police are here to help us, it's good to reinforce to the public that they're here for you guys, and they're going to be there as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and that's particularly important with a fire because, boy, when a fire starts, that goes exponential. So you really want your firefighters to be there on the scene quickly and get that thing extinguished.
For sure. But, you've talked a little bit about your degrees and all the things that you've done over the time, and the police academy, the fire academy, all these kind of for the citizens and whatnot. And you have an extensive background of knowledge, a wealth of knowledge. Even the last time that we talked, I mean, you just poured out knowledge on us, and it was great to hear. But it seems as though that there are some people out there that may think that you're just kind of a DEI hire.
Did you read that Facebook post? Yeah, someone.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, someone did comment on Facebook that I am a DEI candidate for mayor.
I only wonder why they'd say that.
I don't know, but yes, I said I'm a graduate of the SugarLand 101, a graduate of the Citizens Police Academy, as I mentioned, plus the Citizens Fire Academy and the Citizens Airport Academy. I'm a graduate of the Fort Bend Leadership Forum, Leadership Houston, Leadership Texas, and Leadership America. And I served on the City Charter Review Commission back in 2003. And the city charter is what governs, how our city is run. And I was handpicked by, council at the time, back, I said, over 20 years ago for that. And I also served on the Land Use Advisory Committee before I got on council. So I'm former president of the Women's Energy Network of Houston, and I've co-chaired fundraising events to benefit women and children in need. I served on the Shape Up Fort Bend board. I've served on the the Skeeters Baseball Foundation board back before it became the Space Cowboys. But I have got just a strong, very strong background. I've been a community leader for 32 years now.
Right, absolutely. So it's kind of funny to see individuals wanting to, because the other candidate being that he is a gentleman and you being a woman, it seems as though that's always the kind of go-to, especially when it comes to local elections. It's like, where is the meal ticket of persecution and attacking an individual because of maybe their race, gender, or whatever? But I mean, how do we push past that and start looking at what President Trump put out there in regards to getting rid of the whole talk about DEI and more focus on the qualifications?
Yeah, I'm the most qualified candidate, and I've got the experience to back it up. And so when I saw that, I just laughed. So, I mean, seriously, I'm like, seriously? I just laughed and don't pay attention to it. But
Right.
back when I was getting my chemical engineering degree, I mean, this was in Tennessee in the late 1970s. I was the only woman in my class almost all the time.
Right.
It was pretty unusual for that. But
Yeah.
my dad was an engineer. My uncle was an engineer. I loved math and science. My favorite class was calculus. So I didn't think anything about it when I said, I'm going to get a degree in chemical engineering. And then I show up in my class and I'm thinking, oh, this is a non-traditional career path, I guess.
Right.
I'm the only female in here, but I hadn't even thought about it until that time.
Right. I mean, it seems like kind of pioneering that avenue for young, women like me. I am a father of 2 young daughters that love math and science. So maybe you have started the playbook for my daughters to become a chemical engineer. So thank you.
That would be great. But yeah, when I worked in the energy industry as a reservoir engineer after I graduated, and I was sometimes the only woman out on an offshore drilling platform in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. And they didn't even have a place for me to stay because the company man would stay in his private quarters, and then the crew all shared, this large bunk room. And of course, I couldn't go in either of those places. So they said, okay, well, I guess you can have a cot and sick bay because we don't have any place for you.
So, in other words, you really haven't had or allowed that to stop you because, I mean, I know there are some avenues that people have to overcome that kind of stuff, regardless, women in non-traditional, as you put it, positions. So, but you've kind of pressed past that and really pioneered the way to silence all of these critics of whether or not, you're capable of doing it because you're a woman, which is ridiculous all in itself. But looking at that a little bit more, like when going into a different area, though, SugarLand is an area that's in Fort Bend County, which has been considered one of the most diverse counties in all of America, which I was surprised when I first moved here on all the different backgrounds, all the different cultures. Like, for instance, I was able to go to, I believe they call it Diwali, the Festival of Lights. It's the Indian New Year. That was a phenomenal thing, and SugarLand put that on. So how is it that, having so many different backgrounds and people from all different areas, like we're on a radio show that's hosted by a Southeast Asian individual, so we have a lot of diversity here. How do you approach that to let people feel more comfortable that, maybe you don't share that background with them about Carol McCutcheon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really appreciate the diversity we have here, and I want to keep SugarLand just an inclusive place for people of all backgrounds to call home. And during my 8 years on city council, I've been invited to so many events, and I love going to celebrate, like I said, all the different things that the different cultures have to offer. Like I said, Diwali and Holi, also been to so many Eids and Iftars, Lunar New Year's. So I absolutely love going out in the community and celebrating with all these different cultural events. I feel really enriched by it.
Absolutely.
And then also, the city has some things that bring everybody together. Like we've got the International Art and Kite Fest. We also have a Christmas tree lighting, and the Christmas tree lighting is not religious at all. It's the Christmas tree and Santa Claus and all that kind of stuff like that. And I look out and I always see people from all different backgrounds that are out there. So I think it's important to have events, for the entire community to participate in, like our Red, White, and Boom, which is our July 4th festival. And then also at SugarLand Town Square, there's events probably every week where the community can just come out.
That's where I had the Diwali.
Diwali. Oh, okay, great. Because people can just come out on the lawn, maybe bring a lawn chair, buy some food nearby, and just hang out with the family and, listen to some music, or like I said, attend an event, all sorts of things. So we have a lot of opportunities for the community to come together. But one thing I thought about doing, if elected mayor, would be having something, maybe call it Conversations with Carol, maybe once a month, bring, have a group of people just come in and meet with them. It could be, small businesses. It could be something pertaining to the animal shelter. It could be something, cultural, something like that.
Right.
And just have something, literally have a conversation and see, what more can we do to meet the needs of our residents.
Absolutely. And that's great to hear, coming from myself, because I come from a mixed background, and knowing that you're an individual that embraces that, diversity in our community is a great thing. And it sounds like you're going to continue that even as mayor. So I believe that's going to be a great quality for not only you, but our city as a whole, and everybody watching. Definitely tune into, everything that she's going to do, because I have full faith that you're going to be our next mayor here in SugarLand.
Thank you. But I was originally going to call it, Coffee with Carol, have the C thing going. But then I thought, I don't like coffee. I like chai.
Yeah,
so then
I'm not
I thought,
a coffee.
So I'm like, okay, because I love chai. So I said, well, I'm going to call it chai with Carol. But then I thought, no, that's not inclusive. I need to call it coffee and chai with Carol. But then I thought, no, let's just call it conversations with Carol.
There you go. I like it.
That's simpler. That's better.
But I mean, honestly, that's a great thing because a lot of cities and a lot of mayors really, in a lot of places, people don't know who their mayor even is. So the fact that you're going to be opening yourself up to the public a little bit more than maybe previous mayors or whatnot it's a great way for you people all watching in the SugarLand area to know that this is somebody that's going to be a mayor for you and is wanting to hear what you have to say. So when you guys go out this week, Saturday is the election, right? From
That's
7
right.
a.m. to 7 p.m. And get out there and vote. Here at the Legislative Lounge, we're fully endorsing Carol McCutcheon for the next
thank
SugarLand
you.
mayor.
Yay.
And we appreciate you coming, but we want to give you guys one last word to talk to the voters and let them know, why they should vote for you.
Okay, but yes, I want to be a mayor for all, and I want to keep SugarLand a welcoming place for people of all backgrounds to call home. So I guess in summary, I have the knowledge, experience, and leadership skills needed to keep SugarLand strong and vibrant. I have a track record of getting things done. I really love our city, and I have a strategic vision for its future. So I ask those of you who live in SugarLand to come out and vote for me this Saturday, like I said, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you don't live in SugarLand, but know somebody who does, please reach out to them and tell them to vote for me as well. And just tell 10 friends, relatives, or neighbors.
All right.
Get the word out. So, but Nathan, it's been great to be on your show tonight. It's good to see you again.
Absolutely, and we appreciate you coming in. We thank everybody for tuning in with us here at the Legislative Lounge. Make sure to tune in next week, Tuesday, not Saturday, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, and we'll see you guys next